GTS. What does it mean? When someone asks you a question that can be looked up online, you send the words back. Google that.
I like it. I think that's what we're going to talk about today is if you're not tracking anything, pick 1, 2, 3 things to track.
They were like, well, what do you track? And I was like, productivity.
The reason why I find that most people don't like a P&L is because we're not taught to read them as an entrepreneur, and because a P&L does not actually go to the IRS.
I have the best salespeople. I got the best executive team. You can't beat me because of my team.
You either have to learn how to hire people or you have to hire somebody to help you hire people and run the ads. That's where you'll see a lot of people bottleneck.
Honestly, I might have been making off of real estate alone more money than I'm making now, but I was miserable because it was all on me. I was like, okay, here's my dollar per hour, but if I pay someone this, profitability will be this, but I can go out and get these other leads, which will lead to new listings. And now not only is she making more money than she's ever made in this business, so am I. Welcome to Let's Go Podcast. It's me and Olivia.
Woo-woo.
Yeah. No.
Today, how to close out a month. So if you are a business person and you want to make certain that you actually know where your money is, what's happening in your business, and if you are where you want to be at by that time of the year, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, knowing your numbers, I find it very peculiar when businesses talk about not treating people like a number, only paying attention to the numbers. And I'm like, you do realize if you don't know your numbers, you don't own a business.
My favorite is the language of business is numbers. Mm-hmm. And the cool part is they're numbers that we can all know. These are not hard numbers. We don't need to know, can you add and subtract? And the cool part is, even though, in school, for us old folks, you're not going to have a calculator everywhere. We do.
Yeah. I have one here. I have one on my glasses. I have smart glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got them there. Yes.
Yes. And with that said, there's so many numbers that you could know in your business. If you're not careful, you might even track. I tend to see people do one of two things. And more often I see we don't track anything.
Yeah.
All the way to we try to track too many things.
Yeah.
And so
the micro trackers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's one thing if you built that way, you started that way, but be really careful. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today is if you're not tracking anything, pick 1, 2, 3 things to track and then start adding and things like that. But don't track things that may be cool to know, but cause more challenges than not. So, and yet you've got to start somewhere. So
there are key pointing indicators, KPIs, if you will, that are macro in your business. For instance, I know a lot of team owners, real estate team owners or sales team owners. It doesn't have to be in real estate, right? And they will track every single little micro, it's a macro, but they're tracking everything. And they were like, well, what do you track? And I was like, productivity. What do you mean by that? I was like, I really don't care if you make 100 phone calls or 50 phone calls. I'm looking for you to set 1 to 2 appointments that day. I'm a macro person. I'm only looking for about 5 or 6 things. And I know that if you'll do those 5 or 6 things over the course of a year, and you'll be consistent, and you'll give me 40 to 60 hours a week, work a week, that you'll be successful.
That's right.
And inside our business, that's what we look at too. The first thing that we look at, Olivia, whenever we're looking at our month to month, the first thing you have to have is a baseline budget.
Yes. So this is, love that you put that. So let's start there. So budget. Ideally, you would have a budget for the entire year, and then every month we're going to talk a little bit about closing out the month and choosing the date that you close out the month, and you would have, and you would take that time and this is the planned budget for this next month. What do we need to add to it, adjust to it based on what's happening? What number, how much do we need to make per day, or is it the third week of the month? Is it the third day of the month that we actually have our entire budget for the month covered? What day do we break even type thing? But if you're just starting this, if you don't have a budget for the whole year, just what is your budget for next month?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What did you
very
look
simple.
at? What did you spend the previous month? Make sure that have QuickBooks or an Excel spreadsheet, but have something that says this is what we spent.
Yeah. And for most businesses, it's gonna be very, very simple, guys. You've got labor, You have your 1099s and your W-2s. 1099 is your independent contractor. W-2 is your employee, whether hourly or salary. And those are the people that have a job description that have to show up at the office. They report at this time. They can leave at this time. They have this many sick days. They may or may not have benefits. Those are the difference. Independent contractor, they come and go as they please.
Yes.
They are contracted to do a role. And as long as the role is complete, you don't get to micromanage.
That's right. You can't require them to be somewhere.
Yeah. And
IRS frowns on that. That becomes an employee.
they actually cracked down on that really hard in the construction industry this year. This is not the
That's
conversation for today. And so the first thing is your labor. What does it cost? Inside of your W-2 labor, something very, very important for you to know is that you're paying employment taxes.
Yes. So how much you pay in employment taxes, or do you have workman's comp? How much is that costing? What's your portion of the taxes, right? They every check you pull out a certain amount from them, and then you've got to match it. And if you have any questions about this, is the cool part. You don't have to know it all. There's all kind of payroll companies that you can hire, especially at the beginning, accountants, everything. If you're just like, the cool part is Gusto's the first one that comes off the top of my head, but there's a lot. That's not even the one that I use.
I have a crazy idea for you. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Just hire Olivia. She'll come in here and set this all up for you.
Yeah, that's true.
This is what she does. Yeah.
But yeah, so you're just literally, because that's the cool part is you don't have to think about it. Here's the money we spent. They pulled this out of the account. You don't have to think later, oh, did I have to cut that? Or, at the end of the year, oh my gosh, I've got this big tax debt type thing.
Yeah, well, so mine comes out monthly. And look, if you would have told me 2 years ago, it was just never a line on my P&L because it wasn't that big. 3 years ago. But we've hired more people. We have a lot more W-2 employees. And I started looking every month at what was coming out, and I was like, that's like 5 mortgages. It's insane. So it's really a line on your P&L that you need to know about. So you have your labor. Make sure that your taxes and all that stuff. If you offer benefits, that needs to be in there. Materials or office supplies is a big thing. Subscription services is a very, very large thing. I know my subscription services are in the tens of thousands of dollars per month. That's a huge line item in my monthly P&L. And then, of course, you have, like in my company, I own, most of the companies I own, I have partners in. I think I own 8 or 9 companies, and only one do I own solo. It's THLT. And in that one, I have CEO benefits. It is in there, like I have a salary. I don't take commissions. All my commissions go into the company. And I have a salary, but I also have benefits for giving up all my commissions, such as it pays for my life insurance. I have a key person policy. So if I die, everyone's taken care of. It takes care of things like my car is largely used for work. It takes care of those things. There are some things that you could argue that may be personal expenses. I call them CEO benefits, whatever. But anyway, I know what my baseline number is that I have to hit in order to break even each month. And then before you close out a month, you really kind of got to know where you hit, because when you look at your revenue versus what's being output or put out, there has to be a green number there, or you're not running a business.
Well, so, and interesting enough, you are, depending on the business, there's potentially some months that it's going to be red.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet you want to know that the previous months caught it, or you have this much in reserve and that type of thing. And so one of the things that you mentioned was the P&L. One of the things that I notice is most companies, the reason why I find that most people don't like a P&L is because we're not taught to read them as an entrepreneur, and because we typically will have like an accountant set it up. They don't understand your business, and they set it up. A P&L does not actually go to the IRS. The P&L is for you. The P&L is, if I wanted to sell my business to Harrison, I'm going to show him my P&L so that he can see, is it actually making money, right? Now, so we talk about, so the first thing that you want to do with your QuickBooks is set it up so it actually makes sense for your business. So for instance, the traditional P&L is going to just like, it's very line item-y. Again, same thing with P&L. I can see sometimes people they add way too many things.
Yeah,
mine's
on a spreadsheet.
Well, you want to, so I'll need to show you the one.
Well, no, we do have QuickBooks. Like Amy runs the QuickBooks.
Yeah.
My personal one, like, so when I'm going through my personal thoughts, I don't like looking at QuickBooks.
Well,
but I have created my own. It's a very simple spreadsheet. It just shows all my bills every month.
Well,
and then I can go into my revenue spreadsheet that's a live doc that is shared between Amy and I, so that every time there's a closeout, we have a financial breakdown of every single thing. And then I can look at our gross revenue for the month versus what we spent and go, did we win or did we lose this month?
Yes. Well, and this is 100%, because you are going to see that you're going to have different pieces. But whenever I talk about the P&L, so I'm going to, what I'll do is I'll send you one that we can flash up right here. And people can kind of see. So prospecting marketing is one that I do tend to break down. So like, how much did we spend on events, Facebook advertising, Google advertising, lead conversion, marketing, signage, that way, offline advertisement, promotional, because that's going to give us an opportunity to go, okay. And this is when we talk about the closing out the month, as we go, okay, we spent $1,000 on this ad source. How many leads did we get off of that? How many appointments did we set? How many actually became something? That way do we make sure that, there has
to be an ROI, a return of
return of investment.
Return of investment. No, that didn't go well for me. I almost had interest in my head. I don't know why. Yeah, here we are. I've been yelled at this morning already. I'm a little bit off kilter. So there has to be an ROI to your line items. For instance, like we review our lead sources once a quarter, not once a month, because we need large data. And one of the lead sources that everyone hates on, I mean, lab coat agents, they get bashed. I mean, it's really bad. I'm going to call my rep and let them know. They'll probably put me on stage for this, if I'm being completely honest. Our ROI on it over the last 3 months was it's 8.5, 9x. Like 9x. So if I give them $1, they give me $9.
That's right.
Like Olivia, if I gave you $1, and you gave me $9, do you know what I would do with my day?
That's right.
I would spend my time feeding as much money into that money machine as I possibly could.
That's right.
Because that's a fucking great return.
That's right.
And so it's important that while you're closing out your months and your quarters, that you're holding your investments, because that's what these subscription services,
You're holding them accountable.
They're investments. And so you have to hold your investments accountable and go, I'm giving you money. Are you giving me more money back?
That's right. Because I have seen people actually like go through their budget and go, oh, well, I just cut these 3 things because that's what I spend the most money on. And I'm like, oh, hold up. That's actually what you make the most money on.
Yeah. So now our lifeline's cut off. And where's our business at now? Oh, we're fucked.
That's right. And so and I agree with you. Like, there are certain things that you're only looking at per quarter. Now, for the most part, I want to look at those monthly, not because we're going to do a big breakdown into them monthly. That's going to be more quarterly, but we can kind of tell where we stand. So for instance, this one particular company, we've got a sheet that's how to close out the month. Some of it is filled out by myself, some of it's the business owner, and then some of it is the admin or the operations department. But what we look at is jobs completed. So what was and I want you to kind of, with real estate, you would talk about units closed, right? Well, and let me back up just a second. So the way that, and this is not hard and fast, this is the way that I do it, right? So it can be any day, but pick a day. So what we typically do, the companies that I coach, is we pick, so whatever day the month ends. So it's February 28th, the month ends. The next week, by Wednesday, we're going to meet. That gives us Monday and Tuesday to gather information, make sure we have everything. And then on Wednesday, I meet with the owner and operator, depending on, not everybody's operations is in this. And I like to have them there. And so what we look at is, what is our jobs completed goal for the year? Where are we at actually? And then what was our month goal? And where are we at actually for the previous month? So it all stopped on that 28th. So we look at jobs completed or units completed. This particular company, we're looking at estimates approved, appointments set. What's the conversion between the appointment and the estimate, so that we know that, it's twofold. If we get every appointment, we're too cheap.
Yeah.
If we lose a lot of them, we're either too expensive or we're not good at conveying our value proposition.
There you go. Oh, yeah.
And usually it's the value proposition, interesting enough. And so many people just think, oh, it would be cheaper.
You can present to profit.
Yes.
You can present your way to profit. It is a real fucking thing.
That's right.
I have a presentation that I created whenever we started THLT. We're updating it now, and yet it's outdated. It doesn't even actually cover all of our services anymore. We do so much more than we used to do. But when we go and present, you know what the reaction we get from the homeowners are?
What's that?
You're going to do all this? What does this cost?
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, that's your only question. It's just, what does this cost? Like,
Yeah.
you're excited, right? Because we're presenting value. They get excited. They want to see the ads. They want to see what we're doing. And while we're selling houses for an average of 40 days faster and for a percentile more and all these things.
Let's break that down too. So if you sold my house 40 days faster than the average, so that means at least one monthly note that I don't have to make, one electric bill that I don't have to pay, one utilities, one insurance.
One repair for the HVAC that may break the next month.
It all... And so, even if you had let's say you had a $2,000 a house note, or let's say $2,000 with all that, $2,500, you just saved me $2,500, right?
Yep.
And that's if that's the only thing that you do. So I think that's the big piece is you have to know, where the value is, and if we track those numbers, then we know where we need to make an adjustment at.
Absolutely, yes. And so it's again just one of those KPIs that you have to look at. So anyway, back to your point, you can present your way to profit.
100%, and it's very important.
I know. Great. I say this: they're really good at getting business. They're awful business owners, but they know how to speak and they know how to present. And so they get a ton of work and a ton of jobs. Now, do they follow through? Do people leave them reviews? Do they get referral work? The answer is no. But they still get hired because they're so good at talking and presenting. Well,
and the cool part is, so now they have like one part of the puzzle, right?
So, yeah,
and
if they could just get the
then
service,
they would,
There is a person in mind in your life that I will not say on this camera, but if we were all at your house at a semi-family reunion, that's what I would accuse him of. Mm-hmm. I was like, you're a great presenter, you're a great talker, but you are the king of overpromise and underdeliver. Mm-hmm. And if you will ever get the second half of that puzzle right, you will be a fucking unstoppable millionaire.
And it's usually finding that person, right? It's a lot of times we think that we have to be everything in the business. No, matter of fact,
hide your weaknesses.
Well, that's this one particular company that I'm coaching. That's what he's discovering is he was like, oh, like his aha was, I'm the bottleneck. Because he was like, I have all this stuff in my head.
Yeah.
And, people will call me and ask me, and he's like, I just Googled it. And I'm like, yeah, so we got to teach them that it is okay. Yeah. And
business owners learn this. GTS. Just send that. GTS. What does it mean?
GTS.
Yeah.
I don't know that I know that one.
Yeah. When someone asks you a question that can be looked up online, you send the words back, GTS. Google that shit.
I like it. I like it.
No, you're not allowed. It is a personal principle in my life. Mm-hmm. I enable people to be great, but I am not the reason that you will be great.
That's right.
If you send me a question that you can Google and get the answer to, I will not respond.
Well,
or I'll send you back GTS. Or I'll send you back Google.com. Because I think that's funnier.
Well, so, and like 100%, because this is when there's a few reasons why. So number one, I'm not Google. That's what I always say. It's like, I'm not Google. But we have to give the people in our organization permission to do this. And so the way that we give them permission is making sure that they understand. So like, there's a whole nother conversation we can have about what level can you make a decision at. But let's say that it is, let's say that I know that we need a new copier in our business. Let's say let's use you. You need a new copy in your business. It would not make sense, for you to go.
If
look
someone
at the
calls
copier.
me about the copier, I'll be kind of pissed.
Yeah. So what you're going to do is you have empowered Amy to go out, find out the
hell,
best.
it ain't even got to make it to Amy. Jay can do that.
But that's whoever,
without,
right?
Like, we have to have a copier.
Yeah.
So we have to repair it, or we have to replace it, or we have to sign a new contract to get a new one. And actually, funny you say copier. Amy called me because she was reviewing all of our expenses for the year and reporting back on things that I don't touch or control or know anything about. And she's like, "Hey, hope this is okay. This is the decision I made." She saved me like, I don't know, $500 a month.
Yeah.
And she's like, "We have a newer printer, a more efficient printer, and I saved you $500 a month." I was like, fucking great job.
That's a win, right?
Yeah, I appreciate you.
And so giving them permission, so like, and so when you bring somebody out, well, you know what? I won't go into that, but there is a way to do that so that people know that it is okay for them to make the decision. And there's going to be certain decisions that you're going to say, okay, you make the decision and tell me. Immediately. Then there's going to be make the decision and tell me when we meet, or the weekly, monthly.
Send an email.
And then there's going to be make the decision and never tell me. Like, that's just your job, right?
Yeah.
And then there's going to be make the decision, but then you have to tell me because I'm going to make the final say, right? Like, if it's and usually that's going to be like a customer service thing or money. So like, let's say before you spend this much of my money, I'm the one that says yes to that, right?
Dan Martell in Buy Back Your Time, that's one of the things that he talks about is I have empowered each level of my management and executive team. This person, if it's an $800 fix, no phone call needed.
That's correct.
Just send in the memo, and it goes to the person above you not to clear it, but to know about it.
That's right.
And then this next level person, it's $1,500. This next person, it's
whatever's
$2,000.
appropriate
and
to that role.
The person below him, it's like $50,000 that they can
Yeah.
spend without going to talk to Dan about
That's right.
spending it.
And because they have earned
Dan obviously
the right.
makes a lot of money. If you spend $50,000 in my organization, you better have an act of God signed.
That's right. And so everything's different. So like in this one particular, let's say that you have somebody that goes out and does repairs. And they go out and they needed 25 bulbs and they have 20. Well, you don't want them to have to, because you got to have 25 for the job, right?
Yeah.
You don't want them to stop what they're doing, chase you down and go, hey, I'm missing 5.
Would you mind if?
Would you mind? Yeah. You want them to know that, no, like, we got to do the job. Go get the 5 and then let the person know that ordered, because we want to find out, did you get there and the homeowner, was it really missing? Did the homeowner not give the information, or, do we need to adjust the charges? But make that decision and then let the appropriate people know. But that don't be the bottleneck in your company. So that's a little bit of a side thing, but going back to the numbers is, so we talked about, you have to decide which numbers that you want to know. Then, so some companies, I will divide it. So you a lot of times will say the buyer side, seller side, right? Let's say it is a company that does generators and electrical. We might have 2 different,
here's electrical work versus generator
That way
work,
we know, hey, we actually need to do more of these because that's where our profit is, or we need to do more of these. Because sometimes where you think your profit isn't where it is.
Correct.
And so, so when we talk about the end of the month, so we look at those numbers. There's a couple other things that I'm going to mention. So we go through the P&L, and this is a very quick. We go through the P&L, and a lot of times, because if you're going through your P&L a lot of times, and especially if it's broken down right, you don't have to necessarily go through every line item, because you're going to know, whoa, that number's not right. Yeah. And you can make the adjustment very quickly, or you just have to go through that. But, no, every month we spend, $1,000 on that. It says 12. Oh, we need to have a conversation, or we need to see if something got put in the wrong thing. So it's very, very quick. Then we look at that close out the month. Then we compare where we are, and then we review the budget for. So I'm getting ready with clients to review March's budget, and let's say that your an expense went up, your internet went up, or that y'all are getting ready to go to some event, and you go, hey, I want to go ahead and start putting that in the budget. That way it's very clear, because a lot of times what I've seen, especially companies that have a lot of incoming and outgoing money, if you do what we call checkbook accounting, where you just see the money coming in and out of your account, or that let's say that there's, let's say that every day your company has to make, do enough jobs to do like $1,200 a day. And you go, well, we're hitting that every day, but you're not doing this. What you don't realize is you're doing the work, but we have a problem in our accounting and we're not getting paid for it. And so you think you have all this money, but you really have $50,000, $70,000 out. You go and buy something that doesn't get paid in time. Now you're having to pull money out of your pocket to pay it, or, like you can get into a bind fast. So that's why we want to look at these. This is the other time to look at, if you're in a business that this matters, like, are there invoices that aren't paid? Now, I don't mean like the invoices that's not paid that was 28th and today's the 3rd and they're not due to the 5th. But do we have something that's, what's your standard operating procedure, thank you, SOP, to say it has to, if it's older than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it's whatever, we're going to talk about it. So I know if, as the owner, I might call the person, and is the person that I'm talking to calling the right people, or do I need to turn this over to collections, right? And now you're on top of your money. And then we're also going to review the last month's priorities, and we're going to go, okay, so based on what we talked about last month, did we hit the priorities? If not, is that okay? Because sometimes priorities can change. And then based on that and based on where we want to be, what is the priority for the month that we're in? Sometimes it's like, yep, business as usual. Sometimes it's, this is the next step. Sometimes, so what is the priorities for the month? Who's going to do them? By when? Who's going to report? Go, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what that looks like. And when you first start doing it, it's probably going to take a couple hours. Eventually, unless you have like a lot of moving parts in your business, or you have some big adjustment or shift that you're doing, usually like they're 30 minutes to an hour, right? So it's not this long thing. But it is definitely a conversation that you need to be having.
Yeah, Olivia, when you talk about moving parts, that's a really important thing when it comes to your finances. So in my companies, there's only 2 ways to get money from any of our companies. There's a check, there's a credit card. There's no other way to get money. So your financial auditing process becomes much easier. We do not attach our credit cards to Venmo. We do not attach our credit cards to Cash App, to PayPal. It's not allowed. So whenever I'm going to close out the month, right, we've established that we need a baseline budget and do our charges and all those things fit into where our budget is. We spend $2,000 a month on food. We spend $3,000 a month on agent care. We have a X amount attorney budget. Like, are all these things fulfilled, right? And then when we go into our auditing process, it's very easy. If you have a checking account and a credit card, then you can go to your credit card app and you can print out all the statements. You can go to your monthly bank statement and you print it out with images. You want to look at your ACH transfers to make sure no one transferred any money out of your account. That's super important, because if you're only looking at checks, you may miss a transfer. And then you want to make sure you print out your images as well, and you want to cross-reference those checks with your jobs and make sure that people were paid correctly.
That's right. And
then you open up your credit cards and you look at all the stuff. You know real quick whether these credit card charges belong on your budget.
That's right.
I know, and I'll use the roofing company as an example. We used to have a little bit of a problem with taking our employees out to eat. And then I was like, I haven't been invited to any of these dinners, and I own a portion of this company, right? Like, so guys, we spent, I think it was 1 month, it was like $1,800 on taking employees out to eat. We have put a stop to that, right? But it was like, sushi seems very popular at Lily Roofing.
Yeah. We can't. Yes.
So it just that easily, I was able to screenshot, add it up, send a calculator to my partners, and go, "Hey guys,
is this really where we want to be spending the profit?"
That's right.
Because it's profit. And don't think because that's the other thing. Just because we can write something off, we want to take every fair write off that we can. Okay, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And yet,
as a business partner, you're paying into your LLC that you can take your income and write it off.
Right. Well, but in what I think people, we'll just write it off. You understand? You still got to spend money to write it off. My favorite, Daniel Robinson shared this with me, and I loved it because I was talking about write-offs or something one day, and he goes, "Look, this is the thing about write-offs." He's a CPA.
Yeah.
And he said, you have to decide, do you want it or do you need it? If just because you can write it off, you're still going to have to spend
still money
money,
spent.
and most of the time more money than what you can write off, right? Or I shouldn't say more, but there's a cost to it. So don't act like just because you're writing it off, it's like free money.
No, well, so here's the realistic. Like I've thought about that. I had a buddy of mine. He was a pipeliner, but he operated as a 1099 contractor for them, and so he could write things off. And so every time we went to dinner, he'd pick up everybody's meals like write-offs.
Yeah, but you just spent.
And then I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, and now this is before I really knew much about business. I was like, I mean, I guess it makes sense. But then I'm like, all right, so for every, like, let's say you're in a 40% tax bracket, right? So for every dollar you make, you owe 40 cents back to Uncle Sam. But if you spend a dollar, you don't owe anything to Uncle Sam. So you didn't save a dollar.
That's right.
You still spent the 60 cents of profit that could have gone towards investments or whatever else, right? And so write-offs are a great thing because we do have business expenses.
That's right.
And you need profit to live.
That's right. And so
but that's actually how we account for all of our stuff. And it is absolutely illegal, not even frowned upon. It is a cardinal sin inside our company to attach our credit cards or our checking account to anything. And that makes, I mean, do you know how long it takes me to audit a company?
Take long?
15, maybe 20 minutes. If we have the roofing company takes me the longest because we write so many checks. Like, it's nuts.
Right.
In the real estate company, it's real easy. Like,
right.
I see the agents' names. I know their commission checks. I can very easily take that check number and reference it back to, we have a master sheet for all of our commissions. It breaks down everything, how much they got, how much we got, where their cap is, and then a gross revenue column over there. So I just scroll down and go, here's our gross revenue for the month. We're good.
That's right. That's right.
Know?
And that's the thing is you want to make it simple. So let's say that the reason that you don't like doing it is because it's not simple. You just haven't found
systems make it simple.
The systems make it simple. Because this is the other thing, as the owner, odds are, unless like your background is like CPA or something, and even then it may not be the best use of your time, you shouldn't be the one that's inputting all the stuff. Your job is to look at the final pieces and have the final pieces so you can see what story those numbers tell you. Because that's the whole, like, the language of business is numbers. It is a language that tells a story. So I can look at somebody's business and look at like where they're spending money, and a lot of times go, you know why you're not making more money? You haven't invested anything in hiring people. Like sometimes I can look at it and go, okay, you're paying people too much, but usually you don't have enough people, or the right people maybe, or man, like you're not spending any money on marketing. Now, some businesses that's okay, and if you're making what you want to make, but if you're not, I'm going to look at those categories.
Name a business that doesn't need a marketing budget.
I guess when I say,
you said it's okay, so I'm curious. Like, what do you know that I do not?
Well, when I say it's okay, what I mean by that is, like, let's say that you are doing as much business as you'd like. You're growing.
Yeah, there's a lot of realtors that say I don't spend money on leads. I have a referral-based business. But some of them legit mean that. Some of them.
Well, some of them. Well, so that's part of it. Is sometimes people go, I have a referral-based business, and you go, okay, but you're not spending any money here, in your marketing, but you're a part of a lot of networking. You're a part of the church. You're part of, like, a lot of people. So that's what I mean by be intentional, but don't act like you don't spend any money or time doing it. And let's say that you do 15, 30 units a year, and that's what you want to do. And so you don't have a marketing budget per se, but the challenge is, you should be spending some money taking care of those people that are sending you money.
If you want a referral-based business, you need to have multiple touches per year.
That's right. Now,
4 to 12.
And the reason why I say that's okay is because sometimes people hear me talk about this and they go, oh, well, I've got to start spending money. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't say that. Be smart, because like there's sometimes people will come to me and they're like, well, I know that I'm supposed to be running Facebook ads. Okay, hold on. What are the 3 to 5 sources of business? Are we hitting it? Let's not do that. Like, you're not even on Facebook. How about this? because that's not your niche. Let's do this instead. So, and then sometimes it is, yeah. What do you mean you're not on Google, right? Like, and sometimes it's just being on Google. Sometimes it's paying the ads. So don't just hear somebody like Harrison says, oh, these are the things I do, and go, oh, well, I need to spend the money Harrison does. Now,
I mean, I would argue that you should.
Well, no, you might.
Yeah.
You
Did
might.
you see those numbers I released this week?
Yeah. Well, no, again, it depends on what they're going for. But let's say that they've never done, what I mean by that is if they've never done internet-based advertising, you've talked about this before you knew what you were doing, you lost your butt, right?
Oh, lost 6 figures, lost my ass. It was so bad.
Don't just assume, oh, he does this, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna be successful. You gotta look at it and do it in increments, and then go to the person or the system and find that thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, all I'm just saying is don't throw money at it just because you think that that's what you're supposed to do. Because a lot of business owners, I see that they're making a profit, and the first thing they do, because we're not talking about numbers, is they're so used to having to like do this, they just start spending all their profit on more pretty shiny objects that's not actually increasing any more of the business.
Yeah. Well, and that's why you'll find people who have been successful in certain fields, and what they've learned is that instead of selling their product, they can sell a product to the people they work with and make a ton of money. Because if you walk into a room, I'm just going to keep using realtors. I apologize.
No, I think it's business, so that's fine. Yeah.
But I mean, there's a widget that you sell and it's applicable to real estate sales, and then you create a company, and there's 2-3 million realtors in the US, and you go around trying to sell it to all the realtors, and now you're on $10 a month with 100,000 subscribers. Last time I checked, that's like a lot of money. And I think it's like $1 million a month, right? And you make a lot of money because they're all looking for that shiny object.
That's right.
Right?
And that they didn't use, because that's the other thing is it doesn't matter how great that thing is.
People are subscribing to shit they don't need, and I would relate that to an average consumer.
Yeah, or maybe they need it, they just aren't using it. Well, you can't. If you
need a CRM, but if you don't use it, it don't matter.
That's right. And if you subscribe to, I'll see a lot of it. They'll go to a convention and they'll subscribe to. And again, I've been guilty of this, but you go there and you find these amazing things, and you sign up for 5 of them. It doesn't matter how amazing they are. You cannot implement five new things at a time. That's 5 new things maybe a year, but unless you better be the beginning, right?
Like you don't have the beginning of your business. But if you're right now, there's no way I can do it.
No, you're like
1 to 2 things a year is all I can add to my business.
That's where, and usually you have to go, and that's one of the reasons I always preach the 3 to 5 sources of business that you're shooting for. Because if you go, okay, this 6th one I really want to focus on, you got to ask yourself,
something will die.
Am I getting rid of one of these? Is this going to be better than one of these? Or, and then, but anyway, so to just be really paying attention. And that's what you're doing by doing these numbers at the end of every month to say, am I on pace? And this is the other thing. Sometimes we look at numbers and we talk about right or wrong, bad or good. No, this is effective or ineffective.
Correct.
Was this month effective or ineffective? And sometimes what it actually looks at when you're tracking your numbers every month and over the years, you might look at it and go, you know what? This month was more effective than last year, because last year I only did, $60,000. This year I did $90,000.
But where are my expenses? What's net profit?
My expenses also increased. My da-da-da. So, or like, let's say the market's going backwards and you're standing still. That means you're moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's where, it's really like, is it effective? Is it not effective? Don't look at it as, because again, that's the thing. Sometimes we'll just look at it and we'll go, okay, we're profitable. We're profitable, which we want to be profitable. But if you're not looking at these things, what you might find is what you're doing is what Dave Ramsey says, you're out earning your financial illiteracy.
I think you said it the nice way. That's not how he says it.
Yeah.
No.
That's what his book says, out-earning your financial illiteracy.
He goes, you can't out-earn your stupidity.
Yeah.
And that's a phrase that I use very, very commonly.
Yeah. And you can for a short time.
It's not sustainable, though.
It's not sustainable.
Because when the market goes backwards, or when your top producer leaves, or when someone gets sick and they're out for a month, or Susie Q has a baby and she goes, hey, I'm taking eight weeks, right?
Yeah.
And you can't help these things. Then now your P&L goes upside down. You cannot outpace your stupidity forever. You have to have a financial plan that will create success in your business, not for the short term. Consistency is the key. You said earlier that every month would not be a green number. And when we say green number, we mean every month will not be a win. I can tell you.
Well, every month could be a win, but doesn't necessarily mean green, meaning you made profit sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a green month in your systems, but not a green month in your money. I mean, that's a real thing. We actually take our slow months to work on our systems. Look, we know, like, it's just programmed in my brain, which actually, thank you, Lord, I really appreciate this. I normally lose an egregious amount of money in between November and February. I think I broke even in November. I made good money in December. I made great money in January. And we're going to do pretty well in February. I didn't go red on any of the months, but we normally take those months and I just sit down with my executive staff and I go, hey guys, this is the part of the year where you're going to see me lose a little bit of hair and my hairline's going to go back just a little bit. And you're going to see that little pregnancy vein hitting my forehead. It's just stress because I know, like, this is my 9th year. Like, I already know what this thing looks like. I'm just going to see a sea of red for a second. And then we're going to get to March and then life's going to be okay and people are great. And we're going to stack back a ton of cash. And this is why I manage the finances to make sure we get through the red season.
That's right.
And then, and then like God was like, oh, all gas, no break. And we just absolutely crushed it. So that was great. But it's okay to lose money some months. It is about an average. It's about an average.
That's right. It's about a long career, not a month, not a day. But you can't, say that and then not being intentional on the other side either. Because sometimes,
if March, I know that the last part of Q4, the first part of Q1 are kind of my red seasons, right? And so if I'm having red seasons in June or July, now we need to look into productivity systems, people, like what's going on.
And when you talk about during the for you, it's like that last quarter, when you talk about meeting with your people, you're lead generating during that time. You're doing things that are going to show up later, because that's the other big piece of it is making certain, like, what you do today
90 days
shows
cyclical.
up.
Let's
That's
go.
right. So, like, you'll see some of the benefit in 30 and 60 days, but it's 90 days. And heck, even so, that's the piece about making sure, like, if you want to make sure you have a good March, what are we doing today to build toward that? And that's what I mean by being effective or ineffective. Let's say that your business is losing money and you've made adjustments and you're doing this. But don't stop there going, okay, I made these adjustments, and then what are we doing that is going to increase or improve this?
Yeah. And if your business is losing money, you have 2 options right here on the show. One, you can call me, partner with me and my executive team, or you can call Olivia and you can pay her to help you fix your business. We'll do either.
Yeah. And that's 100%. Like, don't go it by alone. That's probably the biggest challenge is we think we can be everything to every
solopreneurs, in my opinion. Now, will there be solopreneurs? Absolutely.
Well, what I mean, but solopreneurs, but a great solopreneur also has
a good one has a team.
They have a team, and some of the team is your board of directors, your mentors, your coaches, you're hiring people. But, like, if you don't know how to hire people, go find somebody to help you do that.
Yeah.
Like, because you're not, or, go take a class. Like, you're not going to just osmosisly be good at this thing, right?
Yeah.
Everything in your business is a skill, and just because you're a good salesperson doesn't mean you're good at this.
Just because you're the number one salesperson in your company does not make you a business owner. It does not make you a leader. Something I'm dealing with personally in my life right now. I probably should just get away from that story altogether. But being a great salesperson, like, does it make you the Maverick and whatever that movie was? I can hear.
Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun. I can hear the music. Right? Like, does it make you awesome? Yeah, it does. Does it make you a business owner? Not a chance. And so you just have to make sure that, let me get back on track there.
Surround yourself with people
the solopreneur that thinks they are the end all be all in their business and then they can do everything will get outpaced and outlasted because people have figured this out.
Mm-hmm. People have gone before you.
Team up. Team up. You can't beat me because I have the best salespeople. I got the best executive team. I've got the best executive admin. I've got the best transaction coordinator. I've got the best call center.
Yeah.
You can't beat me because of my team. It's no longer about me.
That's right. Well, and the big piece of that is everybody gets to stay in your wheelhouse. Interesting enough, let's say that you want to run a business, and I'm just going to pull, like, let's say that you're a
McDonald's franchisee.
well, I want to go. Let's say you're a handyman, and but you want to run a business. But right now, your job every day is just to go out and put down floors, right? Or not so handyman, but let's say you lay floors. Well, you have to do one of two things if you want to get to a place where you either have to learn how to hire people, or you have to hire somebody to help you hire people and run the ads, because that's where you'll see a lot of people bottleneck is you're like, okay, it is so hard to be the one that does the job and bids the job and does the advertising and make sure that the checks get paid and there's not enough hours in the day, and then you wonder why you're here, and then and again, there's nothing wrong with here if you want to be there, but if you want to be at a different place, you got to do things different.
And if you want to be dumb, if you want to be dumb, you got to be tough.
Yeah.
like that's no, seriously. That's a song, right? If you want to be dumb, you got to be tough, right?
That's right.
No, because when you're doing that, like I've done that, and it ended in me having anxiety attacks at 3 a.m., waking up and going, "Did anybody do this? What is this done? I'm gonna get sued. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know what my finances look like. Is there money in the bank? I don't know
because there's not enough time in the day.
I was doing everything, and today I'm the guy that just goes and does the bids, right? I talk to people, I coach, I train, I review the P&L and the CEO of these businesses, and I give bids.
That's right.
And then I give the bids, and they go, bid approved. I'm like, all right, guys, let's get to work. Let's go.
Well, and so because that's the very much the important piece of it is because we see this a lot of times, in especially the real estate industry, but I would imagine that it's across every industry. You'll have somebody come in and they blow it out of the water and they are phenomenal. And then in 2, 3, 4 years, they're completely out. Now, if that was your intent, that's fine. Like, again, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
but a lot of times, the reason you're out in that particular business is because you have burnt yourself out.
Yeah.
And you are
or did not
having
build
anxiety.
a sustainable business model.
Yeah, you're having anxiety attacks, and you're just like, it's not worth it, right?
I would.
And so
I
that's
promise
the piece.
you, I would have quit had that continued. I was miserable. I honestly, I might have been making off of real estate alone more money than I'm making now. But I was miserable. I hated my life because it was all on me. Everything was on me. Phone calls at 6 a.m.
You
all
were
the
the
way up to
bottleneck
12.
of your business.
I was. I'm pretty positive you were the one who told me that. Like I should be fired. And I fired myself multiple times. I've tried to fire. Every time I get a new job, I try to fire myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want those jobs. I want to hire people and empower them to excel in those roles. For instance, I was still one of the listing agents. How long ago? When did you help me with Kelsey?
That would have been April, May, June, something like that.
I think April was about right. April of last year, we needed a second listing agent. The P&L really didn't say we could, but I knew. I went and I actually, all right, because I do my closeouts. All right, let's link this back because we have 5 minutes. Let's link this back. So because I pay attention to my closeouts, I looked at my dollar per hour on everything that I did. It used to be listings that made the most money for me and for the profitability of the team. Well, it became something else. I'm not going to tell you guys. And so I was like, okay, here's my dollar per hour for the team if I do this. Here's my dollar per hour if I stick where I'm at. But if I pay someone this, the profitability will be this. But I can go out and get these other leads, which will lead to new listings, which will more than make up for what I'm paying that person, right? And then we hired that person. You helped me with her, and it was phenomenal. And now not only is she making more money than she's ever made in this business, more consistently, so am I.
That's right. Yeah.
It was a win-win, but I would not have been able to make that decision because the P&L was closed. Olivia, what did I tell you about my P&L? Because you added some subscription services to it.
Oh, yeah.
What did I tell you?
Yeah, he's like, no more money.
It's closed.
Yeah.
The credit card is off. We're done. And so if I didn't know my closeout numbers, if I didn't know my monthly numbers, I would not have been able to make a conscious decision to hire her. And now what has that done for my life?
Yeah.
It's done amazing things. I got to open up a new business. I got to go deeper on these things that were higher dollar per hour activities for me and the company. Now the company's making more revenue, which means I make more revenue, which means our staff get more bonuses, which means now we have the opportunity to hire more people and grow the business bigger and put out more ads and bring in more agents so that we can close more houses.
Yeah,
right?
change more lives.
That's right.
That's 100%. Like, that is the thing about knowing your numbers and knowing what your dollar per hour is, and if I do this, then I'm able to do this, and so it's so important, and it starts with just knowing what it is that you do, and letting other people do things, because that's the other thing that I see over and over again, because we're good at something, then we're like, oh, I'm the only one that can do it. And so a lot of times the first things I do when I get into businesses is we talk about, I think I taught you this term, it's strategic incompetence. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So deciding what things in your business. So I remember, whenever I got the Freddie Mac account, legit, and Charlie worked for me at the time. He was amazing. And so Charlie learned how to do it. He took care of everything. Like, again, we had the meetings about it. And then whenever I sold that account, or, sold my business, the agent that I sold it to asked me questions, said, oh no, that's why you also have Charlie, because I don't know the answer to that. I refused to know. And because sometimes people were like, because he also handled the billing, because we had to pay for stuff and then they would reimburse us. And people were like, well, what if he quit, got sick, et cetera? I'm like, first off, there's systems, and I would just hire somebody else to go back through the trainings and figure it out. Why? Because if I know how to do it and something happens, I'm going to feel like, oh, I should step back in and do it.
Yeah.
No, I don't,
That means that something, in order for that to live, something else must die. And that means your dreams, your future dreams as an entrepreneur must die.
Yeah.
And that's not, we don't hire people so that our dreams die. We hire people to grow the world. We want to grow a world so big that other people don't need to leave it in order to live their big life.
Right. That's right. And so just being really intentional with identifying. So like a lot of times with owners, we talk about, what are the things that, you set the vision, you hold the money account. You should not know how to fix the printer. If you know how, that's fine. I'm not saying you can, don't be an ass to anybody. And at the same time, where are you, would your time be better off? Like, oh, well, I just wanted to do that because I wanted to help my employee. Or would your time better be going, somebody else can help them fix the printer. I'm going to spend some time with them talking about their dreams and right? Like, so just be very careful, practice strategic incompetence, be okay not knowing everything, because if you know everything and know where everything is in your business, you probably are the bottleneck. You need the overview. Don't completely, don't get surprised because somebody's stealing money from you because you never looked at your, numbers. But empower people in your business to do things. They'll stay with you longer too. Everybody likes to be trusted and know that they can
trusted,
do more.
Empowered ownership. Like when people feel ownership of their position, I think it's really important. I'll give you an example. I got a phone call from one of our listing agents, and I was 3 in with one of our buyer's agents, and they had a question about, a property. And I said, what'd they say? I'm like, well, we called for your opinion. What'd they say? I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And they went over everything that they thought, and I looked at it and I went, it's good to me.
That's right.
Like, and I was like, so now that we all know this, was I necessary? No. All right. Let's have a good day, guys. You are killing it. Great job.
So when somebody calls you in your organization, they ask you a question. Again, there's a difference between training and coaching. And so if you've done the proper things, right, but somebody calls and asks you a question, a great question you just get in the habit of asking is, what have you done so far? What do you feel like should be, what have you researched? What do you think should happen? And they tell you, and then most likely you're going to go, that's perfect. Yeah. You might want to add this, but other than that, Or you might just go, hey, you didn't need me. So just like Harrison did, so from now on.
What are your 2 suggestions to fix this problem?
Yeah, which is, just
to make sure that they've brainstormed and they thought about it from different angles.
100%. Like, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So what have you done so far? What research, or what do you feel like we should do, and where did you get that from, right? Because if it's just, because that's the other thing we want to teach people, just because this is the way I've always done it doesn't mean it's the best way.
I learn new things every day about my business.
Yeah. So coming in and going, well, in my natural, I would probably just do this. And yet I went ahead and I spent, 3 minutes Googling, I looked at this book, whatever. And these are two other things that kind of sounded good. So I'm thinking either of these three would work. I'm leaning toward this. And then you as the owner get to go, yeah, and you nailed it, and now go do it. And you're not having to be the Google for everybody in your business.
Yeah, don't want to be there.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, I hope that this helped you think about closing out your month. You want to know your numbers. You want to have your baseline KPIs. I lean more towards macros than micros. That's worked for me. You want to have a financial auditing system monthly. You want to make sure that you have properly leveraged yourself so that you can make sure that you're sitting in your 20. You are making your highest dollar productive activities daily. Protect your hourly wage. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I think you nailed it. I think that's where we'll end.
Well, this is Let's Go. We appreciate you. Like, subscribe, share, watch stuff. Thank you. See you later.